How'd that go out there today? Just scrimmaging and going full speed?
Everything about it was awesome. Obviously, the moment getting ready for playoffs. I mean, being out for 4 weeks, so every step has been in the right direction in terms of trying to get back out there. I never enjoyed practice so much, so it's good.
Do you feel like when you're playing, are you thinking like, how's my conditioning, or is it literally like, how does my foot feel on this cut?
It's everything. You deal with an injury, you want to make sure you're kind of over the limiting factors of how you move and what the pain is like and all that. Then you worry about where you are conditioning wise and rhythm wise. Figure out how much is left to kind of get to 100%. And everything's just been, positive in terms of getting back out there and understanding I'll be ready to play whenever that time is. I'm hoping it's Saturday, and trying to be my best version that I can be. Having missed a little bit of time now. Obviously, I've been through this before, so I have high confidence that I can, go out there and help our team win.
You said 100%. I mean, do you presume you'll play and not yet be 100% when you do return?
I hate going through that because what does that even mean, really? Like, yeah, there's a little bit of pain, or discomfort, but there's, you get cleared to play, and at that point, there's no real time to worry about that. Are you going to help the team win? Are you going to be able to make an impact, do what you do? And if I feel like the answer is yes, then that means I'm ready to play.
Was there a point in the past 4 weeks when you felt a significant improvement, a day or two period where you thought, okay, it's trending in the right direction?
Probably actually Saturday of this past weekend when the guys were in San Antonio. I stayed back and got some work in and was able to extend how much time I could be on the floor doing workouts and the intensity. And it's weird because this injury, the first 2.5 weeks, I literally couldn't do anything on the floor or on my feet. I had a boot on for close to 2.5, almost 3 weeks. So that part it's weird where it goes from almost 0 to 75 quick, where you're not 100, but you're take the boot off, get back on the floor, and then you have to just be conscious of how much pounding you put on it, because the healing process was at the front end, and now it's just about trying to catch up to get ready to play, and obviously not just play a game, but play a playoff game.
And how hard was it to kind of navigate the differences with this injury compared to anything in the past, like you were just saying? And were there any surprises along the way?
Every injury is a little different, and then obviously the timeline is a little different. Honestly, talking to Rick, he's done the best he could with being precautious and making sure that there's enough healing, happening, with also understanding that the playoffs are coming and you have, not to say you skip a couple steps, but there's an expedited kind of a sense of urgency on the back end to try to get ready. And thankfully, the way that I've handled injuries before and just work you put in, the conditioning part is the least concerning thing about it. So it's not like I'm putting myself in jeopardy by trying to go out there. As long as the foot feels good enough, the conditioning, all that stuff, I have such a strong base that I can make that transition pretty easily.
How different are you, having been through this a few times? Were you more zen? Were you less nervous?
So, yeah, the whole time, just positive and patient is the word. That's kind of the same answer. There's no real concern. I'll be a step slow or, be out there exhausted in the first like 2 or 3 minutes whenever you do get back, because I have been through it. I know the work that goes into it, and I can push myself once I get that green light to get back on the floor. So it's just a matter of understanding the healing process with this foot. Like, that was the only question, because I hadn't had this injury, or I haven't had this injury before. So, yeah, definitely just patient, confident I was gonna get there, and I see the light at the end of the tunnel right now.
And how did you used to be when you were out with injuries?
I mean, just a little bit more impatient in terms of wanting to rush to get to the next step. Probably didn't listen very well in terms of what those timelines look like, because you're always just antsy to get back out there. So from jump, I knew what the amount of weeks that this injury usually takes. So I kind of put that in the back of my head and knew every day was an opportunity to make sure that I would be ready physically once the foot healed. And that's kind of how it's played out.
If you do play Saturday, that'll be the first time that you're playing with Andre, Draymond, and Clay. How much are you looking forward to that kind of reunion on the court? And what do you think that combination can do for the Warriors, just because we haven't seen you guys at full strength this season?
I mean, we're going to find out. Like, there's a lot of excitement about that. There's also some uncertainty about rotations in terms of, like, what is it really going to look like? But I feel like we have enough in the bank in terms of experience, just the know-how of what a playoff atmosphere is like, to be able to make those adjustments on the fly. And we've been very in tune with each other in terms of what it's going to take in terms of communication, in terms of being able to be a little bit more versatile in terms of what, guys are asked to do. Understanding the details that it takes to win a playoff game, and especially as a good team like Denver. So all those things, like me, Andre, Clay, and Draymond have that experience, and we want to be able to, bring our guys along to that level, and hopefully we'll, have a smooth transition when it comes to that, and get off to a good start.
And then just a quick follow-up, if I may. You mentioned, Steve earlier today mentioned that there's going to be a lot of growing within the playoffs and just kind of all the adjustments. How difficult is it going to be just navigating all that, trying to figure out what works, what doesn't, when you're on the big stage where everything, it is kind of do or die to some degree?
I don't think it'd be difficult. Like, obviously we want it to go well, and that's the hope, but I don't think it'd be difficult in terms of, you just take it one game at a time. It is cliche, it's whatever, but it's the only way you can approach it. Like, how do you win this first game? And go back to the drawing board, watch film, make adjustments. How do you win game two? And that's gonna be more important than ever in terms of how we get, through this first round, how we continue to get better, find that chemistry, and plot our way through this playoff run. So I don't think we're putting too much pressure on ourselves. Like, just go win game one, take a deep breath, go back to the drawing board, figure out how to win game two. And especially with, like you said, a lot of, the amount of options and combinations and looks that we can throw out there. So that's it.
You mentioned you haven't had this type of injury before. So there's a foot sprain and a bone bruise. What was the bone bruise part of the rehab like?
There's nothing you can do about it. It's just time. And that's the one that, from what I understand, can linger if you don't handle it properly, especially early in the process. So everything's stable, everything's fine. It's just if you aren't far enough along in the recovery process, that's where it can become a problem in terms of just something that nags, over time. So hopefully I'm past that hurdle, hopefully by Saturday, and kind of put it behind me.
Steph, you just mentioned not putting pressure on yourselves, and Steve was saying earlier, it's kind of no expectations right now, which comparing to, 5 straight NBA finals. And what is that feeling like to be kind of just going each game and adjust? And he said it was kind of fun to not have those expectations.
It helps just, again, to stay in the moment. Like, yeah, nobody's picking us to win come out the West. At least I don't think, except our families, which is fine. It's just a matter of like literally, well, you got to win 4 games, and in order to do that, we have a certain game plan that we're going to try to execute on Saturday. And you want to get off to a good start, protect home court, and then we understand every game takes a new life of its own, and that is a fun challenge. And at the end of the day, like, if we can do that, we can just keep pushing, keep getting better, keep making those necessary adjustments. Different guys step up, be ready to, when your number's called, you look up, you get to the second round, do it all over again and plot your way through it. So we like the situation we're in and the opportunity that we have. And we obviously understand nothing about this is going to be easy. Never is, and it shouldn't be. It's, why we love being, in a playoff type atmosphere, and having missed it for 2 years, like, it's going to be fun.
A correction. Pilo is picking you guys to win it all.
So Pilo, front row 40, Mr. Fab. Who else we got? Who expert?
Probably got Rex Life Raj, a few others out there. All the locals.
I'll take it.
As much as the conversation has been about your foot and your availability, there are other factors that will dictate what you guys are able to do in this postseason. And what do you think they are?
We obviously know there are certain things that make winning difficult for us and turn the ball over, giving up offensive rebounds. We understand what Jokic does, really well. Now, how much pressure he puts on you all game. Obviously looking at the amount of talent they have kind of around him. They have guys that really thrive off of what he does in terms of, getting them involved and making the offense go. But they were a momentum team in that respect too. So we have to take care of what we can control, and that's, obviously valuing the ball every possession, boxing out, being physical, not having boneheaded plays on defense where you're giving them easy baskets. That's the X's and O's of like our strategy. But other than that, it's like just bring the necessary energy and effort and competitiveness, meet the moment. And then, let the chips fall where they may at the end of the day.
Other question is about today's scrimmage. How did you play in your mind? And I also heard that from a couple of people that Wiggins was pretty good today.
Yeah, he was assertive and aggressive, and he looked fresh. So that's what we want to see. Whether we got to wear our practice jerseys and just reminding what he did today and how he played, whatever we can do to motivate him in that respect, we're going to do. But I played all right, felt good. Conditioning was fine. Was moving around the floor pretty seamlessly. I didn't do one of those 3 things I just told you we need to do. I turned the ball over a lot. And that's just timing, getting used to being out there with 9 other guys. So I'll be able to make those adjustments, be myself whenever I get back out there.
Out of curiosity, how do you parse your wisdom to the young players? Is it in like cool old man phrases? Is it long speeches? Like, how do you do it?
I'm pretty straight to the point and just let them know, like, this is just basketball at the end of the day. It's the same, like everybody says every year, it's the same 94 feet. There's another level of intensity and a sense of urgency because it's the playoffs, but what you've done to be successful at this point, you have to do those things well. but it's another level of focus in terms of the details of like knowing your personnel, knowing your playbook and the other team's playbook, knowing their tendencies, being able to think your way through the game, and, alongside the, increased effort and intensity that you got to have. So, and it just comes with reps. Like, especially I was talking to JP, like he's up leveled the expectation of who he is as a basketball player on this team and in this league. And you might feel a little extra pressure just because it is a playoffs. Like, you can't feel like you got to do anything special. You just got to be yourself, have confidence in how you approach the game, try to keep things as quiet outside of, each game as possible, so that you can keep your mental, straight and stay focused. But end of the day, it's just basketball and you got to have fun. And he'll feel it, and everybody else who's not been in this situation, they'll feel it right away, how much fun this is.
Measure the court.
Say what?
Hoosiers route, pull out the.
Nah, might have to try that. I don't know if that'll work. Some rah-rah motivation.
Hey, understanding all the reasons why you'll have a minute's restriction, does it still frustrate you just a little bit?
Who said that?
Your
I'm
coach.
just playing with you.
Does it still frustrate you that, if you're going to start the playoffs, it's not in the way that you're accustomed to?
Yeah, there's always adversity. Whether it's from the outside force of the other team or minute restriction or something that you got to kind of push through. So I don't know what that number is. I've heard that conversation, but we haven't talked about what it actually looks like. And we got 48 hours, hopefully, to figure it out if I get the green light on Saturday. But I'm not worried about it being a limiting factor in terms of how I'm going to approach the game. And hopefully there's a little wiggle room with whatever that is to see how I feel out there.
So are you going to push for more?
I mean, always, but we'll see how it goes.
What's the initial number they floated?
We haven't yet.
Do you think it's possible? I mean, you think for sure you would probably come back to the starting lineup, or is there an idea of maybe?
If it's Saturday, for sure, I'll start. But outside of that, I don't know the rotation. I mean, the numbers, the predictor of like the rotations and how it's spread out throughout the game, knowing I would got to be out there for as much as I can in the fourth quarter. So we'll see.
You mentioned Jordan earlier. You're coming back to, I mean, he even leveled up more while you were out. Do you expect to come back to an offense that does use him more than ever when you two were together as kind of like the ball handler, the creator?
Absolutely. And we've been talking about that. And that's kind of, I mentioned just some us all being in lockstep on, especially even late game stuff, like what are our go-tos going to be down the stretch, what are the potential combinations of guys going to be. And to your point, like JP's shown, he can draw attention, he can take advantage of defenses do pick and roll. You got different looks that we can throw out there. We just all got to be on the same page on what that looks like, and the trust that he can make the right play, that he can draw a crowd, that he can finish, he can bring us momentum and energy. That's all there. So I look forward to seeing how it plays out.
What do you expect the atmosphere to be like at Chase Center? First time ever that there's a playoffs there with fans in the stands, just what are you anticipating?
I mean, all year, I think it's steadily grown and grown in terms of, the noise and engagement from our fans and just the overall atmosphere, in this building. And for it to be our first playoff, experience here, I expect it to be even crazier. I'm actually kind of mad. Like, I won't get to see like all the extracurricular activities that go on outside and like the pavilion out there and just the pregame vibe that is probably going to be electric, especially, on Saturday. So I'm excited about it all, and it should be a nice buzz in the arena when we run out there for warm-ups and kind of feel, the vibe of being back in the playoffs. So it's going to be amazing.
Have you noticed any differences between Chase Center and Oracle now that you've got a season with some fans there under your belt?
I mean, there's always Oracle. It's no slight to like what it is now, but Oracle's always got a special place because that was such a unique part of our story and our history, and will always be that. So the comparison's unfair. It's just we have to allow this building to take an identity of its own and for us to create new memories here. And that'll take care of itself if we keep doing what we're doing and make these playoffs, kind of worth it in terms of how we perform. So, it's all kind of looking forward, not putting any comparisons on what it used to be.
Just to follow up on Slater's questions about Jordan Poole, Draymond was explaining it's not for certain that Poole goes back to the second unit when you're back. As you guys all figure out the combinations of who's on the floor, what do you enjoy about having Poole on the floor alongside you? Maybe what you two have together.
I think the biggest thing is just gives him freedom to, be a playmaker and a scorer with, the attention that, me and Clay are going to get when we're out there. So, hopefully it just gives the defense one more thing they have to worry about for 48 minutes. And obviously our system and the offense is kind of the same, but we all get it done differently in terms of how we each individually, play and attack and all that. So it just gives us options, and options are great, but options are great only if everybody's in unison on like where we need to be, timing the cuts, what is a good shot, like just understanding those concepts, and we're figuring that out as we go. You got to trust, the ball in his hands to be able to make the right play, and he's obviously proven he can do that.
Clay's return has been, there's been highs and lows throughout all of it. But he seems to be peaking just in time for the playoffs. How big of a moment do you think Saturday will be for him, just in terms of validation after everything that he's gone over the last 2.5, almost 3 years?
I mean, it's been just an emotional roller coaster for him, I'm sure, just all year from January, 9th or whatever, he came back to finding his legs, to hitting a kind of a rocky road in terms of his consistency, and then finish off the year the way he did. So it flows real nicely into, the playoffs and game one, where he's coming off of this stretch where he's played the best basketball of the year. And his appreciation for what this moment will be and the atmosphere and all that, just it follows suit with all that, like you said, all he's been through these last 2 years and how much he's, ready to prove himself on both ends of the floor. So I'm excited for him. I'm excited for everybody. And, we're going to need everybody to get the job done. Clay especially.
Right. Couple on Zoom real quick. Jared Greenberg, go ahead.
Steph, appreciate your time. Just a couple quick ones here. I just want to clarify on the foot. Is there any fear or concern that it could get worse by playing?
No, but there's an element of managing it still, just because it's, we're only 4 weeks removed from when it happened, and that's kind of, I guess, the average time it takes with an injury like this. So it's just, even hate using that word, but it's about managing it so that it doesn't linger and I can continue to get as close to 100% as possible, knowing I want to be available as soon as possible.
And so that, you talking about being in a boot and being off your feet for as long as you were, it kind of got me thinking. I was talking to Steph the other day about his injury and how frustrating it is for him that the only thing that he says is going to heal it is staying off his foot for, a month and a half, which he obviously doesn't have that time right now. Have the two of you kind of commiserated about this or talked about it? Obviously they're slightly different injuries, but just what a different rehab process this has been for both of you.
To talk about it a little bit. I talked to him when he first started dealing with this situation. I mean, but the last thing we want to do is call each other and just be in misery about our injuries every day. So we all keep things in perspective, and same way he's talking about, all we want to do is just be available at best version of ourselves that we can be, help our team. And I understand we both have a really cool opportunity to try to do something special in the playoffs right now. So that's kind of it. We'll deal with the rest of it when the season's over.
Thank you.
All right, two last ones. Maria, go ahead.
Hi, Steph. Hope you're well. Given the young talent that this Warriors team has, how would you describe their attitude and determination when preparing for this playoff series? And also, what do you enjoy the most when you see them play?
I mean, everybody's excited. Like, our week of preparation has been, I don't know if it's just because I've been out and I'm just, like I said, I've never enjoyed practice as much as this week, but there's a good energy, there's a good level of focus. Everybody's understanding how to keep their mind sharp, their body sharp for game one, knowing that we have had a week off, and that's kind of an awkward, window of time coming off of an 82 game season. So everybody's been professionals at the end of the day. And whether you've been through it before or this is your first time, like, you just want to come with the right attitude. And I feel like everybody's, in that mind frame right now. And the biggest thing we said to everybody, like, if you're in the rotation game one, if you're not, like, you have to be ready. And that always proves itself in the playoffs. And for all those guys, the young guys, they got to believe it and they got to buy into it, because they will help us win games and help us win series and hopefully, put us in a championship type conversation.
All right, last one. Mark Haynes, go ahead.
Hey, Steph, we want to take you way back to the first time. Do you remember the first time you made the playoffs? And what's the difference between how you prepare mentally now after being through, everything compared to going through it your first time with all the unknowns?
First time, 2013 against Denver. Now the seeds are switched. So they were the 3 seed, we were the 6 seed back then. Obviously, me, Clay, Draymond, we're totally different players, on the shoulders of a lot of experience and obviously our championships. Andre's with us now instead of on the opposition. So, obviously a lot's happened since 2013. We've grown a lot. The preparation is, you're just more aware of, like, the things that matter, the things that don't. You're a little bit more composed in terms of, not getting too antsy before, the series starts. And, you have a lot more confidence in understanding how things flow throughout a series and how each game is totally different and how to just stick with the program and bring a competitiveness that gets you through it. So, I just like the way that we can kind of stand on that experience coming into a series like this and kind of take it from there. I used to know that. 2 years off my game. I don't know. 23 series. What's up?